Hey there. So today's topic is going to be a little bit of theorizing, but the theorizing that we're going to be doing is going to be a theory that the experience of gangstalking has helped me outline. And this is pretty much the structure of the mind and how the experience of being a targeted individual affects your mind and its structure. So let's say that your consciousness, yourself, is a sphere, right? So then it's a self-contained single sphere. Now, outside of that sphere, let's imagine a bigger sphere. And in this bigger sphere is pretty much your internal monologue, your thoughts. And then outside of this other sphere, you get your subconscious thoughts. So they are like internal biases. They are thoughts that are not necessarily voiced by your inner dialogue, but they are thoughts that are there. So notice that there is distance in between these thoughts, right? So with time, the deeper you are into gangstalking, the third tier of thoughts, so not your internal monologue, not your conscious self, but the outside ones, those thoughts, your observations, your assumptions kind of just get closer to the self, to the consciousness, to the inner core. So let's call it by tiers. So your consciousness is going to be number 1. Your inner dialogue is going to be number 2, and everything else is going to be 3. So as you get deeper into gangstalking, the more tired your mind gets. These assumptions, these shaming impositions that have been put on you by the gangstalker start getting closer. So they go onto the second tier, right? And then your internal monologue starts voicing these tiers. So the thing is that these your the tier no wait. So tier number 3 protrudes through number 2, and then they are just kept bouncing around. So your consciousness is never touched by anything, but it can get really, really, really close to the point where the thoughts in tier number 3 are actually inside number 2, and your internal monologue starts voicing that. So the deeper you are, the closer tier number 3 gets to your conscious self. And when they get so close, then your internal monologue starts voicing the thoughts on number 3. And the closer they get, you get confused because you feel that your internal monologue is actually made by the assumptions or the thoughts that you have on the tier number 3. So then this is when you start hearing voices. So it takes a long time for this to happen. And the thing is that when the tiers get too close together, when the tier number 3 gets too close together, your assumptions of what gangstalkers would think become the voice of your inner monologue. So what happens is you stop communicating with your inner self. So your internal monologue takes the shape of voices, and they take the shape of your observations and your assumptions that are typically on tier number 3. So you don't have yourself. Your inner monologue isn't your inner monologue anymore. You don't even hear it. What you start hearing is what you assume that the gangstalkers are thinking. You hear the shame, and then the thing is that all of these, the tier number 3 is so big that a lot of these a lot of these assumptions you really can't hear. But when you have experienced that and you get out of it, you start being your awareness of your mind gets so incredible that you develop the capacity of actually observing all of those thoughts, those vast thoughts, your assumptions, which in the end gives you more control over your mind. So you become aware of the thoughts, and then you start seeing where they're coming from. So whenever I start having a thought or an assumption, an unconscious assumption of anything that has to do with gang stalking, I notice it. And then I actively steer my mind away from it, and then it's gone in a little bit. Like, you're never gonna have full control of your assumptions, especially if you've been getting gang stalking for a long time. But being aware of it and then comparing it, or really cementing being able to differentiate between the assumption of gang stalking and reality, will help you stay centered and will help you keep those third tier thoughts at bay. It's really amazing, actually, because you are able to really see how your mind is structured. So as of now, I only see 3 tiers, and as I began to sober up, as I began to really see reality for what it was, those tier thoughts kind of moved out of my second tier. And then when that happened the first time, I realized that my inner monologue was like possessed. It was possessed by the thoughts of gang stalking. It really felt like a possession, because only then, after like a week of staying away from anything that had to do with gang stalking and with gang stalking thoughts, where I was pretty much purifying my mind, only then I realized I haven't been talking to myself. And the thing is that then my inner monologue stayed split. Like, it's not tied to me like I used to. Whenever I have a thought of like, oh, I'm hungry, I don't think I'm hungry anymore. I think of a voice, my inner monologue, being a self-identified being that is another me, telling me, hey, you need to eat something. The thing is that it works so good like that. Like, I can function so much better because I feel like I have to be accountable to someone. And it works. It really works for me. So I'm keeping it that way. I'm not changing that perspective. It's strange. It's strange because whenever I think I'm hungry, I don't think I'm hungry, but I feel like my body's hungry. I feel that it's like almost like the mechanical aspect of my being, the part of my nervous system that I don't have control over. It kind of has a voice, and it tells me, and we kind of have a conversation. It's just so strange because it is me, but I don't feel it as being me. I feel it as if it was a completely different being, and we're like a team. It was the shadow, that I used to have conversations with. So I kind of disassociated myself from myself, and I really don't feel like it's me anymore. I feel like it's someone else, and it's kind of amazing because I really enjoy having it like that. Because like whenever I have an idea that my subconscious mind works on, while I'm consciously trying to figure it out, my subconscious mind just like blurts it out, like if it was someone else feeding me that idea. It was something that was unsettling in the beginning, but because I was incredibly familiar with this other being, technically it's still me, but it still doesn't feel like it's me. It really feels like there's another sentient being in my head. The thing is that I really enjoy this setup. It works for me. If, for example, I have something to do, like that I know that I have an errand to run, but then I want to do something, the my inner monologue will just literally tell me, "Hey, you have to do this first." I feel like it keeps me in check. I really feel like it's a separate part of me, and honestly, I plan on keeping it this way. So one thing that Gangstalking taught me inadvertently is that they said you had. I remember when I was beginning to hear voices. I remember my coworker Juan said he has to keep talking to the voices, and I feel that the reason for me that he wanted that was because he kind of cements the voices. So I so I because of that, what I have done is that I have purposely spoken to my inner self as if it was someone else, and it keeps it like that. It keeps it like a separate partition from me. It keeps it separate, and I think it's just like a it kind of vocalizes the thoughts, but I changed the vocabulary to which before my inner monologue was I feel hungry, I feel this. Now now those I feel like it's not necessarily that it actually is a sentient being, but that I have reprogrammed my mind to say, instead of I'm hungry, to say, hey, you're hungry. And because so like my the expression of my inner thoughts, my the vocalization that of the expressions of my thoughts have changed from an I feel to a you feel, so that and they're slowly being replaced, and then now it has gotten to a point where whenever I express something that I'm hungry, I I either think, oh, my body's hungry, or my mind tells me, hey, you need to eat something. I'm hungry. It's crazy. But this is the thing, is that you can literally reprogram your mind to make it speak to you as if it was another being. It is the craziest thing ever, and I never thought of this possible. I would have never even thought about actively speaking to my mind as if it was someone else, and it would literally speak to you back as if it was someone else. It's really crazy, but it works. It works. It literally changed the way I live my life. This has been like one of the best gifts that I have gotten from um from Gangstalking, is that it kind of help me itemize my mind, and I use it almost like a computer. It's really, really crazy, but it's the most fascinating thing that I've ever experienced. That's it. Bye.